why poker players sleep, and I came up with that headline by a book by Matthew Walker. He's a very cool, very smart neuroscientist, and he's been researching sleep for a very long time, and he wrote a book. It's called Why We Sleep. And it's not so much about optimizing sleep, like that's one part, but the big part is really about the deeper research on sleep, about the evolution, about it, and what kind of illnesses come with it when there's a lack of sleep. And we're going to learn something about that today, but still we want to transfer it into how does it help us as poker players. So today's goal is going to look at the role of sleep. I think it's so important to know the why. And then we're going to shortly look at evolution and look at the sleep stages, because there's different sleep stages happening when we sleep. Some of them are very light, some of them are very deep, and they have different kind of tasks when it comes to our sleep. And we want to see how we can make sure we get all of them, because all of them are important. Now there comes a fancy term. It's called Orexin system, and it's basically one thing that modulates our sleep, and we're going to learn something about it. We're not going to go so deep. I don't want to bore you with all the theory, but talk more about the way on how we optimize our sleep, because with optimal sleep, there comes better decision making, there comes better recovery, there comes better learning, better poker performance, more happiness. Yay. So it's crucial. And we can optimize our sleep with nutrition and exercise too. So it's all going hand in hand, and we're going to learn how today. So even the old Greeks already knew in whatever disease sleep is laborious, it is a deadly symptom. But if sleep does good, it is not deadly. So even back in the day, thousands of years ago, or more than 2,000 of years ago, the Greek already knew sleep is pretty damn crucial for our health, for our performance, and for our happiness. And then there's an English writer saying, Robert McGarvey, the difference between hope and despair is a good night's sleep. And it always comes to my mind that one can sleep over a decision. I don't know if that's the correct term in English, but if we are sleeping well, decision over decisions, we are better, and it's getting easier for us to take a next decision the next day instead of the night. So if we have something that bothers us, better decisions are made after sleep, and we're going to learn why that is later on. And last but not least, Matthew Walker, so the neuroscientist I just talked about, he said, sleep-deprived individuals also generate fewer and less accurate solutions to problems. So now we take the transition to poker and take it to decision making. And we know that with better recovery, with better sleep, people make less mistakes. So if we are recovered when we open up our MTTs, yes, we are making better poker decisions. So let's see how we can do that. But first of all, let's look at the Kahoot and see how one can get in there. I think we can expand that here. So you can join via the phone, use the QR code. You can also join via web with that pin, and you're going to be here. We'll see. So make sure to join it. King of the Hill. And then just 2 more people can join. So Clay, if you want to join, let's do it. If you have no idea on joining, just let me know. I can explain it to you again. I'm in a pool. Okay. Then enjoy the pool, but make sure to listen. But then we have heads up Kahoot today. It's gonna be four questions. But yeah, it's gonna be tough if you're just on the phone to stay in the presentation and in Kahoot. So as you guys know, a question is going to be here. You have to answer on your device. So let's start. Yeah, and the lecture is called Why Poker Players Sleep. 2, 1, and first question is a quiz. So there's multiple answers to be selected. What processes are running when we sleep? Yes, so release of stress hormones. It's hopefully not happening during sleep. All of the other 3 are correct, but stress hormones are something that's supposed to be released mostly in the morning or when we are in a stressful situation, which obviously happens too. But cortisol, for example, is released in the morning. So no points for you guys. True or false? Yes. Okay, let's see. Probably King of the Hill. Yeah, he knows it. So deep sleep happens mostly in the first part of the sleep. So within the first hours, there's the most deep sleep. Another quiz, multi-select, already on top. What are important functions of the rapid eye movement stage? That's a tricky one. 3 of them are right. 1 of them is incorrect, to make it a bit easier for you. Bubble, all of them. No. Okay, so emotional stability, yes, that happens for the most part. So we defragment cognitive chaos, we deactivate our amygdala, which is a part of the brain that is important for emotions like, or negative emotions like anger, sadness, but also grief. So we want to calm down that part of the brain in our rapid eye movement stage. And insulin sensibilization, so the optimization, I picked 2 before I said, that happens more during deep sleep. So let's do one more question here. Man, crushing. Okay, I think that's already a win. To what extent does 24 hours sleep deprivation impair our learning ability? Not as big as you might guess. Just imagine everywhere it's written decrease. Oh, yeah, okay. I gave a good hint, I suppose. So King of the Hill is the highest answer streak of 3. Bam. Okay. So let's get started over again and think about what we learn from people who still without any industry, who are still living in a very natural environment, just going with the rhythm that is determined by our sun and the moon. And there's no electricity, there's just people living like we were living couple hundred or even more than 2,000 years ago. So even more than that is possible. So there's one study that I want to mention, and they spent time with the Hadza, which is a tribe of nature's people in Tanzania, and they examined their sleep for over 20 days. And they examined when did what person go to sleep. And that's what they did for 20 days. And within those 20 days, there was only one period where everyone was asleep. So 18 minutes in total within 20 days where everyone was asleep. So basically, most of the time, at least one person was asleep. And then I'm asking myself, why? Like most people just go to bed at night and just wake up in the morning and that's fine. But there's obviously an evolutionary background about this, because these people who were then awake while the rest of the tribe was sleeping were taking care of everyone else. They were making sure that no wild animal is attacking, that no other people are attacking them, or whatever kind of like danger there might be. So that's also why some of us are more night owls and want to go to bed a little bit later and want to wake up a little bit later. And some of us are early birds. They like getting up at, I don't know, 5 a.m. and start going to bed already at 9 p.m. in the evening or so. For the most part, yeah, it's somewhere in the middle, but there's really people who, by a genetic perspective, are going to bed later and that's just what's optimal for them and their performance. Overall, getting enough sleep and getting a high quality of sleep is the first thing to get started with. Interestingly, the younger we are, so Pavel's baby, sleeping a lot more than we are doing. It's more than 12 hours, maybe even 16 hours a day, because the brain is still developing and we need a lot of development and we need a lot of recovery for that part. Now that we are being adults, we need to, depending on how much energy we burn, how much demand is being put on our body and our brain, we need somewhere between 7 and 9 hours. And the older we get, we see that the amount of sleep within people is declining. So there's different amounts of sleep that we have throughout our lifetime. But let's go further. Why do we even sleep? Oh, come on, let's click it. There we go. Cat sleeping. Okay, because it's really, really interesting, because in evolution and in biology, there's only two things that was driving us. First of all, the survival of our species. You will want to make sure that we are surviving as a tribe or whatever, and that we are mating and reproducing so the species stays alive. And now when we're sleeping for hours, just like 1/3 of the day, why are we in that state where we are sleeping? Because there's no possibility to search for food. There's no possibility for hunting. There's not going to be any sex. There's no reproduction, so we cannot reproduce as a species. There's no defense. There's no taking care of the families. So why do we even sleep? Because it just has so many downswings. And when you look at sleep from a physiological perspective, you can really see that it's all about restoration. It's about our brain recovering. It's about our muscles recovering and everything. We have a lot of processes running. We even detoxify our brain when we sleep. And it's super important for ability to learn and bringing new memories to the long-term memory. That's why it's so important for young humans and especially babies to sleep that long, because the brain is developing. And by sleeping well, we prevent ourselves from developing neurodegenerative diseases. So for example, like Alzheimer's, sleep is really crucial here. We activate growth processes for our muscles. So as athletes or as people who are moving and training, it's key. And what we also see, solving problems in the morning after we had a good night of sleep is way better than if we didn't have a good night of sleep. And there's more things to come that I'm going to talk about. So there are different sleep stages, and I'm just going to briefly walk through them. And then we're going to look at the deep sleep stage, which is called the delta sleep, as you can see in the top right corner here. I'm also going to briefly talk about the REM, the rapid eye movement stage. There's roughly 4, some say 5 sleep stages. It depends on the research you look at, but to make it a bit more easy, let's look at 4. We have N1 and N2, which are the lighter sleep stages of sleep. And deep sleep is obviously deeper. It's hard to wake us up. And rapid eye movement, it's really about the recovery and the learning of our brain. In N1, it's basically the transition from wakefulness to light sleep, and it's comparable to a deep meditative state. It's usually around about 10 minutes after we go to bed, or just before we actually fall asleep. So it's really just a short part. And 2 is still light sleep. We then move way less and breathing is quiet, but we already have an increased brain activity and dreaming already becomes possible. And it's especially important to improve new motor skills. That happens a lot in that second stage of sleep. In N3, the deep sleep, there's the biggest release of human growth hormone. So recovery of all the cells in our body. So it's really about that physical recovery. We are rarely moving. We are breathing very slowly. And we can track that via an EEG, for example, or with some tracking devices like the Oura Ring or even the Whoop, although the Oura Ring, I believe, from the research that I've done, is a little bit more accurate. Rapid eye movement stage is the brain is really, really awake, but the rest of the body is asleep. And dreaming is at peak. That's why you memorize most of the dreams that are happening in the morning, right after you wake up. You can maybe memorize what you've dreamed for a couple of minutes, but then you let go of it. So really, really important. And now when we look at the distribution, as I already mentioned, we see a lot of deep sleep in the first part of sleep, and we see a lot more rapid eye movement for the last part. And let's look a bit closer at those sleep stages, because deep sleep is mostly physical regeneration. We detoxify our brain, insulin sensibilization becomes better, and we see an improve in growth and repair. So from training, from a long hike that you've been doing, for example. So all these really important things. And the way we can improve it is by movement and physical challenge. So our sleep stages also come by the demands we put on our body. So if I'm going out for a bike ride and a run later today, because I'm doing a triathlon preparation and I'm doing a competition on Sunday, I hope that I'm getting more deep sleep to recover from that in order to be fit for the next day or in 3 days when I'm doing my competition, for example. But if I didn't work out, maybe there's a little bit less deep sleep because I don't need as much recovery from a physical perspective. We can improve that by reducing stress at night, for example, by turning off a phone, by reading something, by doing some stretching and mobilization, for example. But also magnesium around 200 to 400 milligrams at night. Start easy with 200 or so, just to calm down. Magnesium is such a good muscle relaxant that gets us easier into those deeper stages of sleep. What we see when there's less deep sleep, we see more hunger for sweets, and it's easier to gain weight and a loss of physical performance we can see as well when there's a lack of deep sleep. So it's really, really important also from decision making when it comes to nutrition. And then to briefly look at the rapid eye movement stage, it's more about the psychological organization. We defragment cognitive chaos, it improves our memory function, and it improves our emotional stability. So let's take a short break here. Memory function, thinking about learning something like pre-flop charts, for example, getting a good amount of rapid eye movement is really important to go through those processes, to think about the solves that you've been doing, for example, or to just learn new stuff in general. It's really crucial. And emotional stability, better and more objective decision making also becomes easier if we get a tremendous amount of rapid eye movement sleep. And we can improve that, but two important things: mental and cognitive challenge. So if you don't learn, if you don't try out something new, there's going to be less rapid eye movement, of course. And really, really importantly, try to sleep without an alarm clock, because that might impair or that might cut off your rapid eye movement stage. So what I'm trying to do, if I'm going to bed too late and I can sleep in, I try to get all of the rapid eye movement sleep that I can get by not turning on an alarm. So really important there, try to not cut it off. But we really need a good overall sleep hygiene, like a very good constant rhythm to get the deep sleep and the rapid eye movement. So before we take another break and look at the Kahoot, what happens with a lack of sleep? And that's all something that I got out of Matthew Walker's book about why we sleep. We see gene modifications. So genes can be read by some of our proteins, and then more proteins or messenger proteins will be produced. So basically, what kind of genes are being read by our proteins is being also determined by our sleep. When we have a lack of sleep, there's going to be an upregulation of genes that promote tumors, that promote inflammation, and that promote cardiovascular disease. And we see a decrease in immune activities, which can be a good thing sometimes, but overall, it's just impairing your immune function. We also see a disrupted blood sugar regulation on a lack of sleep. We also see that the incidences of heart attacks in summer increases where there's 1 hour less of sleep. That's really affects. So if we change the clock, a lot of people more than average have heart attacks because it's really affecting also our cardiovascular system. And if we have 24 hours without sleep, there's going to be, as you've already learned, 40% decrease in learning ability and memory, a lack of activity in the hippocampus. Hippocampus is the part of the brain for short-term memory and learning in general, and that's like the least part of the brain what we want to have less activity of. But also instead we have an increased reactivity in the amygdala, strong emotional reactions, as I already said, with a wider range. So people don't care much. They are on the one side very happy, then they're super angry, and yeah, you know what happens to your poker play? It becomes very impulsive. There's no objective decision making. So really make sure to get all of the sleep that you can. Sleep deprivation for only 4 hours a night. So if you only sleep 4 hours a night, we see an impaired immune function, as I already said, just a different fact. 70% reduction in natural killer cell activity to tackle possibly cancerous cells and activities. So yes, can also be very tremendously poor for our health. But let's break it down and look at if Rafael can make a comeback here. Multi-select again. I'm really challenging you guys today. I know, but you can do it. And I'm gonna look at your questions in a bit. Really good. Really, really good. Just like one was missing the light and the spectrum of it. So circadian pressures are basically things that influence our sleep and our biorhythm in general. And there's another pressure which we're going to talk about after the next 3 questions. Good job, guys. Quiz. Oh, again, multi-select. And then there's the other pressure, homeostatic sleep pressures, and 2 of them are right. Yes, so light and timing was the circadian pressure, level of exertion, so how much we've challenged our body and our brain, as well as caffeine as an energy modulating substance is creating or inhibiting homeostatic sleep pressure. Okay. I think, yeah, 2 more questions. What is an optimal bedroom temperature for restorative sleep? There's no perfect here, but there for sure is an answer that gets the closest to it. Yeah. So yellow is right, 18 to 22. For me, I would say it's maybe even 17, sometimes 16s. I see my biggest heart rate variability when temperature's really low at 16 degrees or so. Right now, it's way too warm. Last question. Okay. It's going to be tough to get like 6,000 points out of this, but we'll see. Multi-select. Two of them are right. Yes. Red and green. Training intensely. With translator on the side. Yeah, I tried to focus on the theory a bit too much, but we'll talk about the practical things in a very bit. Foam rolling, stretching, and yoga, of course, like it's about what we do at night, are really good strategies. Foam rolling with black roll that you can see in orange in the back, just some foam rolling exercise. And then green, PMR is progressive muscle relaxation, and it's a good strategy to connect your brain to your muscles, and it's also a very nice thing to calm down with. So I think we've got it figured out who's the winner today. Okay, crazy. Oh yeah, it's you. So I'm gonna shortly look at the questions. Can all learn to be early bird? Yes, of course, we just see that there's a bit of a better performance for people who stay with their natural genes. So for me, I got a genetic test and basically says the best time for me to get up is 5 a.m. and go to bed at 9 p.m., which is like impossible for me. I could put it in, but then just my social life just gets way out of line and I can't go out with anyone, and my girlfriend would kill me if I wake up 2 hours before she wakes up. So I'm more of a 7 to 10, 10:30 or 11 kind of guy. But yes, you can learn it, you can adapt. It's not optimal, but it's not far from optimal. It's more about sticking to a very consistent rhythm. Are you an all or just lazy with going to bed? Yeah, that's the thing. Like really, a lot of people are just bored and yeah, try to stay within, yeah, try to stay awake, just keep on watching TV and another episode and another episode. But it's actually really good and smart to wind down, turn off the TV, turn off the computer, read something, get tired, and then go to bed. It's just going to be more optimal. Just feel so much better with waking up earlier. Yes, yeah, of course. And I realized that when I'm in nature, that I'm just waking up naturally by 6 a.m. and then maybe even 5 a.m. if I'm in nature for a long time. And yeah. How about mixing? Is it possible to have routine that allows some days going 3 a.m., some days 11 p.m.? Yes, and I know that MTT player is asking there. And it's always a trade-off, and I know it's really, really challenging, and it's all not optimal for your performance. So I would try to have the window of your nighttime hours and your waking up hours as closely together as possible. So I wouldn't deviate by more than 1 to 2 hours. So yeah, maybe the answer is somewhere in between. So on the not Sundays, try to stick to like 12 p.m. and on the Sundays, maybe play a little bit of an earlier schedule that ends at 1:30 or 2 p.m. or 2 a.m. in the morning. So that will be 4 more questions I've noted during webinar. Yeah, so that would be more optimal. So try to keep it as consistent as possible. We will be the most optimal, but then if you have to deviate a bit, try to make sure you're not sleeping in too much and then just rather have a nap in the afternoon. So the day after, like a long Sunday, for example, it's going to be better to still wake up at a decent time and your body will stick to that biorhythm more easily, and then just maybe have a nap in the afternoon. How about hours of sleep? Because I sometimes feel overslept. How to manage my sleep to accurate amount of hours? Yes, there's definitely too much, and we see an increase in sleep to 11, 12, 13 hours in people with depression, because they just want to get out of reality a bit more. So that's a bit too much. But optimal is somewhere between 7 to 9 hours. So time in bed somewhere between 7.5 to 9.5 or even 10 hours. So for athletes, they just need a bit more sleep in general. Or for brain athletes like you, it might be reasonable to sleep a little bit more in order to make the most out of your learnings. Optimal, there's no individual solution. We see that most of the people sleep too little, especially on a tight work and family schedule, but it really should be a priority to sleep more. It will also benefit your effectivity, your effectiveness, your productivity, and then you can just get more shit done in a shorter amount of time. Does it have an impact on our day? Don't know too much about lucid dreaming. I know that it exists, and you can basically, so for the guys who do not know, lucid dreaming is basically when you give yourself a stimulus during sleep by a light, for example, that lets you know, I'm dreaming. And then you can basically steer the dream while you're dreaming. I think it's something really interesting. I haven't tried it out myself, so I don't know too much about it. Does it have an impact on our day? I'm not sure. I can look into the research. Maybe there's something that I can learn. Yeah, it's hard to achieve. There's some strategies with some technology, like light, like glasses with light inside that lets you know, but I've never tried it really. Okay. So let's look at a little bit more. You tried journaling. Okay, basically writing down your dreams. Yeah, that can be a very interesting topic. Interesting. So journaling, not one of your strategies, I suppose, that's been working out. Okay, so we have our Kahoot champion crown. Let's see what we can do in order to make more of our sleep. Yeah, last question. Go ahead, Rafa. I've got time. Just need to drink because I'm sweating. Amazing strategy. Good old Nespresso or Nappuccino. I think it's one of the most sleep during the day, or most effective during the day sleep strategies, because caffeine takes about 15 to 20 minutes to make sure that it's working. And the best thing is to have the coffee right before sleep, as you already have written, and then take a nap, go into that light sleep, and wake up after 15 to 20 minutes. And you can do that, for example, with what's that called? With something in your hand. So lay down on the couch, you have something in your hand, and once you go into the deepest stages of sleep, your muscles will relax and you drop the thing or whatever. For me, it's the keys, for example, and you're going to wake up from it. Then at that point, you haven't gone into deep sleep, you haven't gone into rapid eye movement sleep, unless you were really, really, really exhausted. And then you wake up super fresh and natural with caffeine slowly expanding its effect. And yeah, power napping with caffeine, I think it's one of the best strategies, especially if you know like there's competition coming up and I haven't slept enough, or if you want to play poker. So great and amazing strategy to recover quickly. Okay, let's look at our inner clock. So 2 more slides of theory, and then we see how we can optimize it. So your Orexin system is your inner clock. And as you've already learned, we can have 2 things that influence it. We have circadian pressures, the light, the nutrition, and our nervous system. So whether we are really, really activated, we are stressed and in fight or flight mode, or whether we are in a parasympathetic mode, that is the rest and digest mode. Then we also have homeostatic pressures. So we have the level of exertion, so how tired we are because of playing poker, because of competition or stress. And we also have energy modulating substances like caffeine and theanine that make us feel more awake. So 2 things that we need to be concerned about. Then we take it a bit further and think about the things that influence it a little bit more deeply. So you have the nervous system. Nervous system is defined by our sympathetic and parasympathetic activity. Excitement, maybe junk food or negative emotions will activate our fight or flight mode. And also other things like taking a nap, doing some stretching, reading, or doing journaling, if it works for you, can calm you down, for example. Our nervous system is really important to be in the parasympathetic mode at night when we're going to sleep. And we have the more stressful situations, if optimal, more in the morning. Then looking closer, there's also the melanopsin system. And that is defined by our light exposure, or mostly by the light exposure of our eyes and our retinas. It's really important to get some bright light in the morning to optimize our biorhythm, and to not have too much bright light at night when we want to go to sleep. So, for example, using blue light blocking glasses or filters, or just programs on your computer to cut out that blue light at night. We also have that immune system, and we want to avoid the chronic activation of our immune system by not eating too much sugar, for example, or alcohol or soft drinks. Or we also don't want to have a very high meal frequency. So eating like 7, 8, 9 hours a day or times a day can be something that activates our immune system and that can put stress on our body. Last but not least, also the insulin system Basically, insulin is a hormone that is regulating our blood sugar and our energy. We want to make sure that we do not eat too much and not too much sugar. So again, it's all about nutrition too. And that we are satiated at night by having a high amount of leptin, which is a satiating hormone, released. So eating only 2, 3, or maybe 4 times a day, not eating too much sugar will optimize your sleep by optimizing the insulin system. So let's look at how we can optimize these things. We can first of all look at our bedroom and see, okay, there's a couple of nice things. Now for me, I have no AC running. It's quite challenging for me, but I have some cooling things that I actually put right under my pillow. So I'm cooling off a bit at night because it's just too warm. We can have some magnesium. We can use blackout curtains to make it more dark. We can optimize temperature if we can. I think it's one of the most effective functions. We can get a humidifier in to make sure that that light quality is good, and phone in airplane mode. 1, because of electrical radiation that impairs our sleep, and 2, we don't want to be disturbed during sleep. So really, really important stuff. Blackout curtains and the temperature and the phone in airplane mode, those are the most important things for me. The other ones, except for magnesium, I cannot really control. I mean, obviously I can control them, but if I have these 3 things figured out, I know that my sleep is most likely gonna be fine. And if it's very noisy, make sure to use earplugs. I think that's also a really important one, so you don't get disturbed. And now we can look at things we can optimize in the morning. Hydration is key, and getting a lot of water in the morning, maybe with some lemon juice and a teaspoon of salt, will activate your kidneys. It will activate your system in general, and it will be just a good solution. And I also recommend training in the morning. That's where a release of stress hormones is really, really good. It also optimizes your biorhythm in general. And yeah, it's just a kickstart for your day. And a lot of serotonin and dopamine is being released to optimize your energy levels. Also, sunlight exposure. Get sunlight on your eyes and skin within the first hour of the day. And yes, light inside is okay, but even if it's cloudy outside, the amount of lux you get, so the amount of brightness you get into your eyes is just going to be way higher. And also cold exposure. Take a cold shower or a cold bath after waking up. So what I usually do is I drink a bunch of water, I get out for 10-15 minutes, and then I take a cold shower, and that's when I start my working day. That takes me like 30 minutes or so, and then I'm just super nice and relaxed, but also very activated. And then training sometimes happens in the morning or sometimes happens at night. Depends on the schedule, but when I train at night, usually it's not as intense, and as long as it's not going to be freaking killing me, so I'm just still full of adrenaline when I want to go to sleep. One thing that I wanted to mention, forgot it, but maybe it comes to me again. Yeah, the caffeine thing. Try to not get caffeine within the first 91 to 120 minutes of the day, because caffeine, when you drink it right at the beginning of your day, it can impair your cortisol release. So it can impair your cortisol awakening response. Yes, it's really, really, really challenging, and it's going to be a bit draining in the morning, but in order to optimize the biorhythm long term, make sure to have caffeine a bit later after waking up. So after 2 hours is usually good, and then not within 8 hours before going to sleep. It's just going to be a little bit too short before. And yeah, cold showers, divine man from a kid. Yeah, I've been on there for 4 years now, and cold showers in the morning are just, yeah, such an important habit. And there's more benefits to it. Maybe we'll talk about it in another lecture, but cold showers are dope. Okay, what can we do at night? We can make sure that we maintain adequate hydration throughout the day. So keep on drinking that water, and make sure to not have too many sugary drinks, if at all, and limit your water intake 90 minutes before going to bed, so you don't have to go to the toilet all the time. So best way to do it is to drink throughout the day, and not have to drink 1.5 liters right before you go to sleep because you realized your pee is dark orange or something, right? So make sure to drink throughout the day and stick with that. Movement, relaxing strategies are using the foam roller, some stretching, some yoga, maybe even some meditation, and progressive muscle relaxation is also key. Nutrition. I wouldn't eat later than 2 hours before bedtime. Eat slow carb foods. So vegetables, for example, sweet potatoes, maybe some grains, but I would avoid like having pasta, having chocolate, having like sugary kinds of foods. And you can also eat foods that contain tryptophan. So rice, bananas, pumpkin seeds, and so on. So all the things that you can see there contain tryptophan. And you think now, what the hell is tryptophan? Tryptophan is an amino acid. And in our body, tryptophan, when it's taken up, it's turned into another thing, which is called 5-HTP. And then it's taken into serotonin, and then it's taken into melatonin or turned into melatonin. And melatonin is the one hormone or neurotransmitter that calms us down and that initiates sleep. So make sure to eat these foods as well. So get enough tryptophan, get enough melatonin, and then have better sleep. Last slide for today. Block the blue light at night. Get some blue light blocking glasses. Mine are, I think, in the bedroom right now where I read yesterday night. So they are basically orange. What when keto, you don't have to eat carbs when you are on a low carb diet already. Carbs can be good to initiate sleep because they create some serotonin production and release. So you don't have to eat carbs at night. For me, it helps my sleep, especially after a day when I had a good training session and I burned some carbs. Okay, yeah, use the light blocking glasses, use the night modes of your phone and of your computer. I think that is crucial. Lower your body temperature. So I wouldn't go too hard with the exercise at night. Take a warm shower. Yes, that's counterintuitive. Probably not right now at those high temperatures. But for example, when it's getting more towards autumn and winter, that warm shower will cause your arteries and your veins to dilate, so they get bigger, and that way you're cooling off more quickly after you leave the warm shower. So it's counterintuitive. Right now, I'm taking a cold shower anyways at night because it's cooling me off so much that I'm falling asleep. But when it's colder outside and the overall temperature is cooler, you can use a warm bath to cool yourself down. Wind down, disconnect. I think those are great things. Write things off your minds. And so when you have something important in your mind that you can't let go of, just take a piece of paper and a pencil and just write it down. I would disconnect from messages and social media and also write a gratefulness diary, for example. It's basically a thing where you write down 3 things you are grateful for at night, and that's also connected to a good amount of sleep or better sleep quality, which is really interesting when you look at research. I want to talk about some sleep addicts from different disciplines. So we have a triathlete, a professional triathlete who's saying sleep's half of my training, and I can very much relate to that. It's super important. Roger Federer goes way out of line and says, when I don't sleep for 11 to 12 hours, it does not feel right. So he needs a bunch of sleep, but he's also working out a lot, and he's not the youngest athlete anymore. So really important there. And Wesley So, a pro chess player, says generally I take 10 hours of sleep every night, which is, yeah, something that relates to that. But also make sure those guys are having a lot of so much life wasted. Yeah, you can sleep when you're dead, but what if you get sleep from not what if you get sick from not sleeping too much? Those guys have very high demands on themselves physically and mentally, so they are going out of line in terms of too much sleep, but they need it. For us as normal human beings with just moving and training a bit and just working, 7 to 9 hours will do the trick. And we want to make sure that we get those 7 to 9 hours for sure. Okay, stop the presentation.